Hello everyone, welcome back to the Poppy Library. My name is Liz and I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas. It is a humid day today, so we got curly hair Liz going on. If you noticed, I do have a new finished object, which I will talk a lot about in Knitcast. But for today's episode, I wanted to take you on a little studio tour. I had a lovely viewer ask if I could do a little show and tell of my workspace, and of course I can. Anytime I can overshare, I will do it. So, a little bit about my workspace. One thing that I want to come across in this video is if you are hitting a roadblock or kind of losing the motivation to knit or to do your craft, I hope this inspires you to maybe refresh your space with what you got and recycled items, just to get that inspiration back into your life. A new space always can bring that kind of inspiration back into your craft, and I hope that this inspires you to do the same. So when I moved into our new home, I really needed a multifunctional studio space. If you don't know already, I am a knitter and I'm also a stained glass artist, and I need a space that I can do both crafts in and safely. So when I was thinking of my knitting space, I really needed a spot where I could close the area when I am working on my stained glass pieces. Glass goes everywhere, and you just kind of need to keep them as separate as possible. I also wanted a space where I could solve a few of my problems that I was experiencing with my knitting craft, which was I was losing the motivation to knit because everything felt very disorganized. I am very ADD, and if my space is a little messy or not according to what I need it to do, I will lose motivation completely. I will procrastinate. I will put things aside, put it away, and I will forget about them for a while. And I was experiencing that with knitting. Nothing was coming to the forefront. I wasn't able to kind of share or share inspiration with others or do anything with this channel or knit new projects that I wanted to knit. I just found zero motivation and I needed to do something about it. So I needed an inspiring space to keep me motivated. I needed a clean space. I needed an organized space. And I needed a displayed space. So what I mean by that is I needed a space where I could actually see all of my yarn, all of my needles, all of my favorite things, my favorite books, my tiny sweaters, as you can see, color. I just needed all of that to remind me why I'm so inspired to do this craft. And it was time for a refresh. So before I did this redo, I had everything in boxes, in bins. I had all my yarns in bins. I had bags with my knitting needles, my projects. Everything was just kind of hidden and stuffed away because we were living in a smaller space. Now that we have a bigger space, there was this opportunity to now show all my stuff and keep me inspired and organize it the way I wanted it to. So I took advantage. Now, I do want to preface that it is a big task. It took a lot of thought, a lot of revisiting why I like this craft, why knitting was making me anxious, why I really needed it in this space, and what did I need it to do for me. It took a long time to think up. So I do want to go through the process of how I came up with it and how it works now and what it looks like. So the first thing that I did was I made a list. I made a list of all the things that I wanted out of this space, and which I just told you. And then I measured the closet. I needed it to be separate from my stained glass area because glass just goes everywhere when I'm working. And so the perfect place for it was the closet. It's in kind of a nook, and I can install a curtain, and kind of like keep this space very clean away from the glass. And then I went further to kind of draw kind of a rendering of what all the things that I had inventory of, all my yarn, all of my books, all of my knitting needles, all of my camera equipment, everything like that. And it had to live in the space, which is a challenge, to say the least. But after taking just an inventory, laying everything out, kind of measuring the square footage that I would need for each thing, I then I actually made a little rendering for myself, which, hello, this is my theater degree paying off. Just like, let's just draw the space, you know? So I drew the space and I came up with a few things. One, I needed storage areas for my notions, my camera equipment, also my yarn winder. I needed space for my personal files. So I needed a few drawers that were different sizes to fit different things. I needed a desk, which honestly it was just a slab of wood, and I wanted it to be very like wide and long so it could go the whole space. And then I needed some shelves, some dividers to divide the yarn. I needed a display area just for kind of like tchotchke things. So we call it tchotchke stuff. And then a place to put all my books, and also a place to display all of my needles and ideas. So after going all through that, there was a process. It was a process to get all the stuff, to cut the wood. Big thanks to my husband for helping me out with saws and shit. Like, it gives me a little bit, you would think I cut glass, like, you know, saws are fine. Nah, I really need help with that. I'm just like so scared that the saw is gonna like kick back and hit me. But anyway, I got a nice piece of birch wood for the top of this. I got some IKEA shelves that offered that kind of small space design that could fit perfectly into the nook. And 2 of those, installed them, and then put the piece of wood on top, and then use the same 4x8 piece of plywood for the 2 shelves, brace the shelves, and then started decorating. So since then, there have been a few learning lessons along the way, but we'll go through that as we go through the entire space. So one of my favorite aspects of this studio is how I display my needles. I was discovering that when I was trying to find a project, I would get overwhelmed because I didn't know if I had the right needle. I would go out and buy another size needle, and I use majority circular needles, and they're not the least expensive. And I didn't know what sizes I had, so I would just keep buying, and which is ridiculous. And my needles used to be stored in like a leather bag, and so trying to find them and then look for the size, like, it's hard. So I really needed a space where I could label the needle size, I could hang up the needles, and then just kind of grab and go. That just make it easy. I was trying to remove the obstacles that that my old space was giving me in order to knit a garment. All I did was cut little pieces of paper and put the needle size on them, and then pin it, and then use like other pins to then just hang the needles from. And this is all on a cork board, bulletin board that I got from Target. These are from Target. Easy peasy. And they were on sale. I got them for, I think it was like $10 each, which is absolutely ridiculous. They're usually like $25 or $30. So it was a bargain. I just bought them even before the space was complete. I knew I was going to use them. So this side is really just kind of like the needle area / tool area. In the drawers down here, I have more of my camera equipment. It can be stored in the drawers. Just wanted to think like tools on one side, notions on the other. Another one of my favorite things about this is that I can house all my books. There are some books I just cannot get rid of. I will hold on to them till I die. So I needed a place to put them. All of my books are kind of up top. They're a little chaotic. They're just kind of all over the place, different subjects. You know, I have my knitting and stained glass garden on this side, garden inspiration. And then I have like all of my like stories on this side, short stories, poems, stuff that I've carried since college, like all on that side. And it's all like elevated and kind of hidden so you can't see it. So it kind of stays out of the sightline. I don't have enough to like fill a whole bookshelf, but I have enough to just put up on one shelf, which is great. And then I needed a space where I could display my yarn. Now this is a part of, it's in progress, I will say. I do know that I have cakes of yarn and I have hanks and skeins and like different sizes. So the challenge with this is it kind of looks like a little bit of a chaotic mess right now, but I plan to put another shelf above it so that I could put, you know, all those skeins or hanks, sorry, I think they're called hanks, underneath, you know, the baseline, and then all the cakes on top. So that it will separate and make the eye kind of not look at what feels like a pile of mess. But it is working, and it's actually not all of my collection up here either. A lot of it is in bins because the, what do you call it? The separator, the acrylic separator only goes up so high, and I really need it to kind of reach the top so that I could stack more things on top. But what I really like about the yarn space is that I was able to organize it from like lace weight, fingering weight, sport weight, worsted, and chunky, like, or DK, and then chunky. So that I can then see like different weights of yarn that I have in stock. It avoids me from buying too much. It allows me to pick and choose things for my projects. I watched a blog from someone that they upload all of their yarn to Ravelry, and Ravelry will suggest yarns for a project that you save, which is brilliant. So I might venture in doing that. I kind of uploaded a few. But this is great for that kind of task. Like I can see everything, I can grab it, enter it, put it back. It just removes that obstacle of trying to find your yarn. I used to have the yarn just in a bin, and then the bin would go in a shelf. And again, out of sight, out of mind, I would forget about it. I wouldn't even know what I had and what I didn't, and I would overbuy. So this is a really great way to display everything. And it's inspirational because you can see all the fibers that you can use with your projects. You can pull it off the shelf and just look, and the color alone is just inspiration for days. So I love that I'm able to display everything. Also, one thing that I was thinking about when designing this space was that I needed a piece of wood as a shelf that I could attach my swifts to. Slight challenge though. If I'm winding yarn with my yarn swift and my winder, I do have to put the winder further away, like on a TV tray is what we call it. I don't know if everybody calls it that, like a TV tray, just like a little tray that pops out, which I had for my stained glass. So I will have to put the swift over here and put the tray over here, and then I will be able to wind my yarn. That was like a learning lesson, but I mean, who cares? I can put the winder down on the shelf, I put the swift up here, and it's fine. Another thing that I love about this space is the 2 bulletin boards again, but I'm able to display works or swatches that I'm working on the bulletin boards. Having something right in front of me as I'm working on my computer or I'm knitting is super important for me to stay inspired. I love my tiny sweaters. They're going to stay up there until it's holiday time, and then I will put them on a tree or as garland or wherever I want, to be honest. More to come on those. Like, I am making more is what I mean. I'm making more of those. They're super fun to see, and it's just super inspirational just to look up and you see a tiny little sweater. I mean, look how cute. And also swatches and things. I also have a color wheel. Having a color wheel is great because then you can pick and choose different colors that work together for your project, specifically color work. It's an awesome little tool to have. I would definitely recommend it. They sell them at craft stores all the time. So at Michael's, all of those places. So I would grab one of those if you see it, or at your local art store. Another thing to note about this space is that I really need something with a lot of light. So while I was at IKEA, I bought those strip lights, LED strip lights, and I installed them across the space. Now, I got really excited about them, and I put them all on one switch. Slight mistake, I would separate the switches so that you can turn on one level and then another level. It is a little too bright. It kind of hurts my eyes, so I had to add my little rhino ramp my little Rhino lamp. So that way I can turn off this and then I can have like mood lighting. So that was just kind of one learning lesson. Also on this side, I have all of my stationery and all of my knitting notions on this side, knitting needle like bags that I can take to travel with, all of those things, and all of my knitting bags down at the bottom. Last thing, I also need to like do computer stuff. I needed a desk to work at, and so I got this little elevated desk storage that houses all of my things that I need for my Mac, and then also where I can hide it away. Again, if everything is kind of out and I cannot organize my stuff, meaning like if it's just all laid out on the table, it feels too chaotic. I need those things to go away, specifically cords. Something about cords, I'm just like, I try to get them out of the way as much as possible. They make the space feel a little chaotic. So I have the little drawer and I can store my keyboard underneath, and it's super, and it keeps everything nice and clean. One ritual that I have that I would pass along to you for advice is after every project that you do, I would reset your space. So usually while I'm working on something or trying to figure out a swatch situation or whatever, I will have all this freaking yarn all over the place, all my vessels that hold the yarn, multiple projects out. But when I finish an object, kind of like this one, I will fully go through, rearrange all of the yarn and stuff, and kind of reset the space to bring energy into the next project. So that's just a quick little tour of my space. If I missed anything that you see, just let me know. I'm happy to kind of talk through any kind of logistics and stuff like that, or if you need help brainstorming your space or you have any challenges on your space, I'm happy to help solve them. I do this all the time. I dream up big ideas for different spaces. Honestly, the only thing that holds me back is like budget or trying to find the right thing. So thank you so much for joining me on this quick little, I don't even know what to call this, tour of my knitting space. Thank you so much for joining me on this little tour of my knitting space. If you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to add them to the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe the video so I can get in front of more knitters and we can talk all about knitting some more, because I could talk about it all day. So until the next time, I think we have a knit cast coming up because I have a finished object and lots of projects going on. I can't wait to tell you about them. So we have a knit cast coming up very soon. And until then, I will talk to you later. Bye.